My name is Jay Hauser. I'm the elementary school principal from the school district of Poynette. We are a smaller rural district in southeastern Wisconsin. We're about 30 miles north of Madison, which is our capital. And so I feel part of this is kind of a confessional of I've been using a lot of your ideas and your information. And so I thought we should probably give some credit to where it's due. And I've also had the opportunity to do some, I don't know if you really want to call it in-servicing, but I've shared a lot of your ideas with some of the fellow principals, and they have now incorporated many of the things that you have used as some organizational tools. So,
Good deal. Well, glad to hear it. Glad to hear it, Jay. So, thinking back to last year, you made a decision at some point to get into classrooms, and kind of accept this 500 classroom challenge. How much of a jump was that for you? And you've been a principal for a while, right?
yes, yep. This is my, let's see, I was an associate principal for 7 years. This is my fourth year. Well, going on my fifth year as a full-fledged principal. So, yes, I've been in administration for a while.
Good deal. Good deal. And I was saying in an email today to our subscribers that I don't think I personally ever hit that 500 target. And I'm interested in your thought process as you saw that number and you kind of made the decision to kind of go after that. What kind of a jump was that, compared to previous practice, or what was kind of different about that challenge?
Well, I think the biggest thing about the challenge is obviously the consistency. I used the note card system, which helped a great deal. Our superintendent, one of the big messages when he came, which was about 3 years, well, it's been more than that. But it was, he wanted us to be in the classrooms as much as possible. He said I needed to be in every classroom every 2 weeks. I struggled with what was a good system and a good way to do that. And so when I did read about the note cards and the kind of using that system, I think that's where it really jumped. Before, I was very much of your traditional, you got to go in for your formal, the feedback, which is still, I'm finished reading your book, is still one of the things that I struggle with, that is, kind of a goal for this year. But moving, oh my gosh, it had to be 4 or 5. I can't even imagine. I guess I was probably maybe if I got into 100 classrooms. So I would say it was 4 or 5 times more easily than what I was doing.
Yeah. And what did you end up with for this past school year? What was your total?
458.
458.
And I could
Man.
say it was in the last, it got, the end was not, I didn't finish strong, which is something we're looking for. I would say the last 3 weeks is where I really, that didn't finish the way that I would hope that it would. It was, and so I was doing really well. I was feeling good by Christmas, but then I kind of did fade in the second half.
And only made it to 458. Oh well. That's pretty great. Yeah. So the note cards, people were. I think past participants in the challenge actually recommended kind of came up with some of the ideas that we now incorporate into the note cards. And we've got a PDF. If you go to principalcenter.com/note cards, if anybody wants to download those. And then we've got a printable template. And Jay, I wonder if you could just talk us through how you use those note cards every day.
Okay, so I did pretty much, I don't want to say I followed it to a T. One of the things that I did is I literally did have my secretary have the note cards. So I just wrote every one of the teachers. I have 28 teachers that I need to supervise or formally, give feedback and things like that. So I did have it where I wrote on them. I did write if they were, our summary year is a more intense process for us. So I did write on the card if they were summary or non-summary. I tried to organize them way too many times when I just went with the through eight. I saw and she gave me the 4 every day, and she did a great job of saying, "Hey, how are you doing on your note cards?" And then I just put them in my back pocket. One of the things as I went through with the process, I always wrote down the date. I wrote down what like they were, was it during a math lesson? Was it social studies? And then I started to put, did I take actual like notes, or did I document some of the evidence and things like that? So that's how it kind of transformed into that. But I did pretty much follow kind of what was recommended. Once I stopped trying to kind of do, I'm going to go see these teachers this week. I'm going to go see this the second. When I just went with, give me it and then go through it. And I think one of the best pieces is that idea of you do go into the classroom that just it's really feels great, and it's just things, really good things are happening there a lot. And the note card system helped me go with, nope, I got to get into everyone consistently, and so that was a huge help in that process.
Yeah. Yeah. That consistency and that not going based on where do I feel like going today? Who do I feel like visiting? But really getting around to everybody, even if maybe I don't feel like it. And I wonder, Jay, your feedback on this. I feel like I am now kind of constantly telling people, I know you're good at writing this very, very detailed, thorough feedback, that kind of formal evaluation style feedback. And I'm really starting to encourage people to back away from that and really focus on the conversation. Because if I think about getting into maybe a struggling teacher's classroom, I know it's going to be very difficult to write that feedback. And I know depending on the personality, I know they may not even look at it, So convincing myself both that that's a worthwhile thing to do and that I should go ahead and do it is pretty difficult. And I think that's one of our big barriers in the profession, and not really something that's actually all that helpful. So I wonder if there is anything in the process that you found that you had been doing or had been thinking that you needed to do that you stopped doing as you really got up to full speed with this. Was there anything that you kind of changed or stopped doing?
Well, I think one of the things, the piece that I still struggle with, and I think the part that the stopping was, there was too much of a lag time between when I talked to the teacher and when I actually had collected the evidence. I was on a 2 week, I kind of had scheduled all these meetings with the teachers, and they were not close enough. So I think one of the stop things is, for this coming year, one of the goals is to give more verbal feedback and to do it much sooner. And I've talked to staff a little bit already that, if I'm in, we're meeting within the next 24 hours to talk about that, especially my new teachers. And luckily I don't have a lot this year, but I think also the ones that are on summer years. So I think the stop was, I did struggle, and there was a lot of good recommendations of what to put in written form and then how to say it and how they would interpret it. So I would agree with the going to much more of the verbal, but more of the soon, so we could talk about, hey, yesterday I saw this in your classroom. Because there was a lot of times last year too, when I sat down with them and they would go, well, what was that lesson again? And it wasn't fair. I'm like, this isn't fair because I have my notes and I remember it clear as day, but they've done a lot in between there. So I think the stop was the lag and the schedule. It's going to be more, here come, Jay was in, Jay's coming this, during their prep time, or I give them an opportunity at the beginning of the year to kind of say, when's the best time to meet with you? And so it's going to happen much sooner.
Love it. Yeah, I think the faster you can have that conversation, the fresher it is in people's minds. And yeah, I love what you said that, you remember what happened, but they have taught many, many other lessons. And it's very difficult for teachers to remember both what they said and did and when you were in the room. So they're remembering the whole day, and they're not remembering what 5 or 10 minutes did he see. So yeah, reconstructing that. And I love sharing notes directly with the teacher. So if you wrote down what happened, giving that to the teacher to say, here's my notes. Let's talk about it. Do teachers see your notes, or what have you been doing on the documentation side?
We use Google Docs huge. So I have we have a spreadsheet. And so they do see whatever I go in and put in, they can see it as it's just essentially live. They can go back and look and see what I have put in there. It's very much we are under the Danielson framework. So it is very specific of this is what the kids were doing. There is not the opinion in there or that's not the place where I do the feedback and stuff. It's here's what Jay saw when he was in there.
Good deal. Yeah, and I think the lower the level of inference in those notes, the more there's room for that to be a good conversation, no matter, sometimes if there's a lot of judgment in those notes and we kind of miss the boat on what was actually happening in the lesson, and then the teacher explains something to us and we say, oh, okay, I totally misunderstood. The more judgment is built into the notes, the greater the potential is for that to kind of go in the wrong direction. But if it's just, here's what happened, great, we can talk about that and go in any direction that we need to with it. And it really kind of levels the playing field between you and the teacher, because you can both look at those notes and say, oh yeah, here's what happened, this was yesterday, or this was this morning, and this was the 5 minutes or the 10 minutes that I was in here. Love it. Jay, what would you say to anyone who is doubting their own ability to do this? Maybe they've worked for years and years to try to get into classrooms consistently, but it's just been at that kind of, once or twice a week, maybe 50 or 100 informal visits a year. I get my formal observations done, I get my evaluations done, but that's about it. For somebody who's been struggling and is hearing that you've gotten into classrooms, 450 sometimes in the past year, what would you say to them?
I think one of the big things would be is it doesn't have to be always that you're in there taking notes. It's just, and quite honestly, I don't want to be a commercial, but even just reading the book that you have written, that idea of just the starting point of getting in there so the kids are comfortable, the teachers are comfortable with you. It doesn't have to be some big revelation. It's just them being able to see you and the information. And even if it is for a very short period of time, if you build that culture and the teachers and students are fine with it, then you can go in and out and still have it be a very successful learning environment. So I think the biggest thing I would recommend is you just got to start doing it. I mean, you do. I think the system is great. Having something, and again, I think having, and my secretary is maybe a little bulldog sometimes to stay after me, which is great. But that's the part that when you have somebody else that holds you accountable or a challenge, I think that it does make it very worthwhile.
Very well said. Very well said. Yeah, I think, our office staff are our biggest allies in this and getting into classrooms consistently, and really can go to bat for us and say, hey, I'm going to protect your time. I'm going to keep other people from keeping you out of classrooms, but you've got to get yourself into classrooms too. And that accountability just to another person, is just huge. So my hat goes off to you, and I'm grateful that you reached out and were willing to share some insights. So what's next, Jay? What's your next step and your hopes for the coming year?
So like I had kind of mentioned a little bit, is following some of the pieces that are in the book, but I think is giving the more intentional feedback that is faster is really, I think I need to speed up that process is what I look at that. And so that is one of my big goals is, as I mentioned, is when I'm in there, then within the next day, I'm in at least talking, the 5-10 doesn't have to be a huge conversation, but giving feedback to the teachers and giving them a chance to even share more of this is what I was thinking, and talking even more about the evidence piece. Because I feel like right now when we talk, they have access to that. It sometimes just turns into them more of explaining it or trying to justify it and say, well, let's talk about what's going on there. So I think the feedback is still a huge thing for me.
Good deal. Yeah, and there's always a new layer. So even, people who hit exactly the number they wanted to last year are finding lots of ways to take those conversations deeper. And yeah, absolutely.
I guess I just wanted to say thank you, because I think there's some neat systems, and the things that you're doing have been great and have been very helpful to myself and to, like I said, some of my fellow administrators. So no, I think that's good.
Good deal. Well, thank you so much. Again, really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate the feedback on the note cards. And again, we've got those at principalcenter.com/note cards. If you want to download those, print those out. And on the back of the note card template, there is the 10 questions for better feedback. So you can kind of cue yourself with those and get going for the new school year. All right, Jay, thanks so much. It's been a blast to speak with you.
Yep. Thank you.